In the heart of Onitsha, a bustling city in Anambra State, Nigeria, where the Niger River sparkled under the sun and market traders shouted their wares, lived a prosperous man named Nnamdi Okeke. Nnamdi was a renowned palm oil merchant whose warehouses dotted the city, filled with barrels of red gold that brought wealth to his name. His large compound, painted in bright white with red trim, stood proudly in the Feg neighborhood, a testament to his success. Nnamdi was married to a graceful woman named Adiz, whose laughter could light up the darkest night. Together they had 3 daughters, Chinelo, Ifeanyi, and Ngozi, each as radiant as the morning sun. The Okeke family was the envy of many, not just for their wealth but for their unity and love. Nnamdi was a man who wore his pride like a well-tailored agbada. He cherished his daughters and never once lamented the absence of a son. In the evenings, when he sat with his friends at the local palm wine joint under a mango tree, they would tease him. "Nnamdi, when will you get a boy to carry your name?" they'd say, their voices thick with mischief. "Why not take another wife, eh? A young girl from the village will give you a son in no time." But Nnamdi would laugh, his deep voice echoing through the warm air. "My friends, you think a son is my legacy. Oh no. These daughters of mine are my empire. Have you forgotten we are Igbo? Do you know what it means to marry an Igbo lady? When my daughters wed, their suitors will bring me wealth that will make your eyes water. You'll be begging to have daughters like mine." Nnamdi's confidence came from his vision of the future. In Igbo land, the bride price was no small matter. It was a tradition steeped in respect, a way to honor the family that raised a fine woman. Nnamdi saw his daughters as treasures, not just for their beauty but for their minds and hearts. He called Chinelo, his eldest, "my golden yam," for she would feed his legacy with riches. Ifeanyi, the second, was "my key to Lagos," a symbol of opportunity and prestige. And little Ngozi, the youngest, was "my Mercedes-Benz," a promise of luxury and pride. He loved to tease them, his eyes twinkling as he spoke of the grand bride price lists he would present to their future husbands. Adiz, his wife, was no less ambitious for their daughters. She was a woman of wisdom, her words as sharp as a tailor's needle. She would gather her girls in the parlor, where the smell of her famous egusi soup lingered, and speak to them about life. "Chinelo, my daughter," she'd say, her voice firm yet kind, "you must carry yourself with dignity. An Igbo woman is a queen, and queens marry kings. You must choose a man who respects our culture, who understands the weight of our traditions. Your marriage will set the path for your sisters." Chinelo, with her quiet strength and sharp mind, would nod, soaking in every word. Adiz's lessons were clear. Marry well, uphold the family's honor, and bring pride to the Okeke name. Nnamdi spared no expense on his daughter's education. He sent them to the best schools in Onitsha, where they read books and learned the ways of the modern world while staying rooted in Igbo values. Chinelo, the eldest, was a star. She excelled in her studies and, after secondary school, gained admission to study pharmacy at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Nnamdi's chest swelled with pride. "My daughter will be a pharmacist," he boasted to his friends. "Wait until her suitors come knocking. I will make them sweat for her hand." His laughter was infectious, and even his friends, despite their teasing, admired his faith in his girls. Chinelo grew into a woman of grace and intelligence. At 25, she graduated with honors from Nsukka, her degree a badge of her hard work. She returned to Onitsha to work at a reputable hospital pharmacy, where her calm demeanor and expertise earned her respect. Her beauty was undeniable. Her skin glowed like polished ebony, and her eyes held a quiet fire. But it was her mind that drew people to her. She spoke with purpose, her words laced with the wisdom her mother had instilled. One humid afternoon, while Chinelo was arranging medicines on the pharmacy shelves, a young man walked in. His name was Chuks, a doctor who had recently joined the hospital. Chuks was tall, with a warm smile and a voice that carried the confidence of someone who knew his worth. He was from Enugu, raised in a family that valued education and tradition. The moment he saw Chinelo, his heart skipped. She was counting pills with such focus, her braided hair neatly tucked under a headscarf, that he couldn't look away. "Excuse me," Chukwudi said, clearing his throat. "I need some paracetamol for a patient." Chinelo looked up, her eyes meeting his, and smiled politely. "Of course, doctor. How many packs?" Her voice was soft but steady, and Chukwudi found himself lingering longer than necessary. Over the next few weeks, he found excuses to visit the pharmacy. First for supplies, then for small talk. They spoke about work, then about life, and soon about dreams. Chukwudi was smitten. Chinelo was cautious but couldn't deny the warmth she felt in his presence. One evening, as they shared a bottle of malt under the hospital's mango tree, Chukwudi took her hand. "Chinelo," he said, his voice earnest. "I know we've only known each other for a few months, but I feel something real. I want to meet your father. I want to make this official. I want you to be my wife." Chinelo's heart raced. She liked Chukwudi. His kindness, his ambition, his respect for her. But marriage felt sudden. "Chukwudi," she said, her voice gentle. "I care for you, but this is fast. Marriage is a big step, and in my family it's not just about us. It's about tradition, about our people." Chukwudi leaned closer, his eyes locked on hers. "I know, Chinelo. Mibo too. I understand the weight of it. But I'm ready. You're the one I want to build a life with. Let me prove it to your father." Chinelo smiled, but inside she felt a mix of joy and unease. She knew what marriage meant in her culture. The bride price, the expectations, the negotiations. Her father's pride in her was no secret, and she wondered what he would demand of Chukwudi. Still she nodded. "Let's talk to my mother first," she said. "She'll guide us." Chinelo returned home that evening, her heart a whirlwind of emotions. The Okeke compound was alive with its usual rhythm. Ngozi was sweeping the veranda, Ifeanyi was helping Adiz pound yam in the outdoor kitchen, and the aroma of bitter leaf soup wafted through the air. Chinelo found her mother sitting on a low stool, fanning herself with a raffia hand fan. "Mama," Chinelo began, her voice hesitant, "I need to talk to you about something important." Adiz's eyes narrowed, sensing the weight in her daughter's tone. "What is it, my child? Speak." Chinelo took a deep breath and told her about Chukwudi. His kindness, his work as a doctor, and his desire to marry her. Adiz listened quietly, her face unreadable. When Chinelo finished, Adiz set her fan down and stood, her wrapper tied tightly around her waist. "A doctor is a good start," she said, her voice measured. "But we must know him well. Bring him here, Chinelo. Let your father and I see the man who wants our golden yam." A week later, Chukwudi arrived at the Okeke compound, his nerves jangling like the keys in his pocket. He wore a crisp white shirt tucked into tailored trousers, with a traditional black cap perched on his head. In his hands, he carried a bottle of schnapps and a small basket of kola nuts, a gesture of respect. The compound was bustling. Neighbors peeked over the fence, curious about the visitor, and Ngozi and Ifeanyi giggled as they set out chairs in the parlor. Namdi welcomed Chukwudi with a firm handshake. His smile warm but his eyes sharp, like a hawk assessing its prey over dinner. The family gathered around a table laden with pounded yam, vegetable stew, and smoked fish. Chukwudi spoke confidently about his work at the hospital, his family in Enugu, and his plans to open a private clinic one day. Namdi nodded, asking questions about Chukwudi's lineage and his father's trade. Adiz watched silently, her eyes darting between her daughter and the young man. Chinelo, sitting beside Chukwudi, felt her heart pound. She wanted her parents to like him, but she knew the real test was yet to come after the meal. Namdi invited Chukwudi to the backyard, where a small fire crackled under a starlit sky. The men sat on wooden stools, and Namdi poured palm wine into calabashes. "Chukwudi," he said, his voice low and deliberate, "you say you want my daughter. I see you're a good man, educated, with a future. But in Igbo land, marriage is not just love. It's a bond between families, a respect for tradition. Chinelo is my pride, my golden yam. I've spent years raising her, sending her to school, shaping her into the woman she is. The bride price for her will reflect that. Are you ready to honor her worth? Chukwudi's throat tightened, but he met Nnamdi's gaze. Sir, I love Chinelo with all my heart. I know the importance of our traditions, and I'm ready to do what's right. Tell me what you require, and I'll make it happen. Nnamdi's lips curled into a smile, but there was a glint in his eye, a challenge. He respected Chukwudi's boldness but wanted to test his resolve. The next morning, Nnamdi and Adiz sat in their bedroom, a notebook open on the table. Nnamdi began drafting the bride price list, his pen moving with purpose. 50 tubers of yam, he said, and not the small ones, big, healthy ones from my village in Nui. 2 goats, a crate of beer, 5 kegs of palm wine, and 10 yards of Hollandaise wrappers for the women of the family. He paused, then added, and 20,000 naira in cash to show his seriousness. Adiz's eyes widened. Nnamdi, this is heavy. Oh. This boy is a doctor, but even doctors don't have such money lying around. Are you sure? Nnamdi chuckled, leaning back in his chair. If he loves her, he'll find a way. My daughter is worth more than gold. Let him prove himself. Adiz shook her head but didn't argue. She knew her husband's pride. His belief that the bride price was a measure of his daughter's value and his own legacy. But she also saw the love in Chinelo's eyes when she spoke of Chukwudi. Let's pray this boy is as strong as he seems, she murmured, folding her hands in her lap. Chinelo, meanwhile, was restless. She loved Chukwudi, but the thought of the bride price loomed like a storm cloud. She remembered her mother's words about marrying well, about setting an example for her sisters. But what if the cost was too high? She prayed silently, asking her chi to guide her path. Chukwudi returned to Enugu, the bride price list burning a hole in his pocket. He gathered his family, his father a retired teacher, his mother a cloth trader, and his elder brother a mechanic, in their modest sitting room. When he read out Nnamdi's demands, his father's face darkened. 20,000 naira. 50 tubers of yam. 2 goats. Is this man selling his daughter or marrying her? He thundered. His mother, a soft-spoken woman, placed a hand on her husband's arm. Calm down, Papa Chukwudi. This is Igbo tradition. But this list, it's too much. Chukwudi, are you sure this girl is worth it? Chukwudi's jaw tightened. Mama, Chinelo is everything to me. She's kind, brilliant, and she makes me want to be a better man. I'll find a way. His brother Emeka shook his head. Find a way. Brother, you're a doctor, not a magician. That kind of money will take years to save. But Chukwudi was undeterred. He saw Chinelo's face in his mind, her smile, her quiet strength, and knew he couldn't give up. For the next 6 months, Chukwudi worked tirelessly. He took extra shifts at the hospital, staying late into the night to treat patients. He saved every kobo, cutting back on small luxuries like new clothes or eating out. When his savings fell short, he approached his uncle in Lagos, a businessman who owned a fleet of buses. Uncle, I need a loan, Chukwudi pleaded. His uncle laughed, clapping him on the back. Love has turned you into a beggar, eh? All right, I'll help, but you must pay me back. Chukwudi also sold a small plot of land his father had given him, a painful decision but one he made without hesitation. Back in Onitsha, preparations for the traditional marriage began. The Okeke compound buzzed with activity. Adiz and her sisters from the village sewed new wrappers for the women's dance group. Ifeanyi and Ngozi helped decorate the compound, stringing colorful ribbons across the veranda. The market women, who knew Nnamdi well, donated baskets of tomatoes and peppers for the feast. The air was thick with excitement, but Chinelo felt a knot in her stomach. She hadn't seen Chukwudi in weeks, and his letters were brief, filled with promises but no details. What if he can't meet Papa's demands? She confided to Ifeanyi one night, her voice trembling. Ifeanyi hugged her. Sister, if he loves you, he'll fight for you. Trust him. The day of the traditional marriage arrived, and Onitsha was alive with color and sound. The compound was a sea of red and gold, women in glittering gellies, men in embroidered igbadas, and children running underfoot. Drummers beat their instruments, and the aroma of jollof rice, goat stew, and roasted yam filled the air. Chinelo, dressed in a shimmering red wrapper and coral beads, looked like a queen. Her heart raced as she waited in the women's quarters, her hands trembling with hope and fear. Chukwudi's family arrived in a convoy of cars, their horns blaring to announce their presence. The men carried baskets of yams, kegs of palm wine, and crates of beer, while the women balanced trays of kola nuts on their heads. But as the elders inspected the bride price, a murmur spread through the crowd. The yams were there, the goats were bleating in a corner, but the cash was short, only 10,000 naira instead of 20, and the Hollandis wrappers were fewer than requested. Namdi's face turned to stone. He stood, his voice booming over the music. "Is this a joke?" he demanded, glaring at Chukwudi's uncle. "Do you think my daughter is cheap? I raised a pharmacist, a jewel, and you bring me half a bride price." The guests fell silent. Chinelo, peering from the women's tent, felt her heart sink. Adiz rushed to Namdi's side, whispering, "Calm down, my husband. Let's hear them out." But Namdi was furious. "This is an insult," he said, his voice shaking. Chukwudi stepped forward, his head bowed. "Sir, I beg you. I've done all I can. I sold my land, borrowed money, worked day and night. I love Chinelo, and I'll do more if you give me time." The elders whispered among themselves, some shaking their heads, others nodding in sympathy. Chinelo slipped out of the tent, her eyes brimming with tears. She pulled Chukwudi aside, away from the prying eyes. "Chukwudi, why didn't you tell me it was this hard?" she whispered. "I don't care about the money or the yams. I just want you." Chukwudi's voice broke. "I tried, Chinelo. I wanted to make your father proud, to honor your family. But this list, it's more than I can bear right now." Chinelo squeezed his hand, her heart torn between her love for him and her loyalty to her father's pride. The marriage talks stalled, and the celebration ended in awkward silence. Chukwudi's family left, promising to return with the remaining items, but the damage was done. The neighbors whispered, and Namdi's friends teased him at the palm wine joint. "So, your golden yam is still in your barn, eh?" they said, laughing. Namdi forced a smile, but inside he was troubled. He had wanted to show the world his daughter's worth, but now he wondered if he had pushed too far. Chinelo, meanwhile, was heartbroken. She spent days in her room, barely eating, her mind racing. She loved Chukwudi, but she also loved her family. She remembered her mother's words about being a queen, about setting an example for Ifeanyi and Ngozi. But what kind of example was this? A love torn apart by tradition. One evening, she found her father sitting alone on the veranda, staring at the stars. She took a deep breath and sat beside him. "Papa," she said, her voice steady but pained, "I know you're proud of me. I know you want the best for me. But this bride price, it's pushing Chukwudi away. He's a good man, Papa. He loves me and I love him. Is my happiness not worth more than yams and money?" Namdi was silent, his hands clasped tightly. He looked at Chinelo, seeing the fire in her eyes, the same fire he had nurtured since she was a child. Memories flooded back. Chinelo reading her books late into the night, her graduation day when she walked across the stage in Nsukka, her laughter filling the compound. "Chinelo," he said finally, his voice soft, "I wanted the world to know your worth. The bride price is our way, our pride. It shows I raised a daughter who is more than ordinary. But if this man is your heart, if he makes you happy, then I've been looking at the wrong treasure." Tears welled in Chinelo's eyes. She hugged her father, something she hadn't done since she was a child. "Thank you, Papa," she whispered. Namdi held her close, his heart heavy but hopeful. He realized that his pride had blinded him to what truly mattered. His daughter's joy. The next week, Namdi called Chukwudi's family for another meeting. This time, he invited them to a smaller gathering, just the elders and close relatives. The compound was quiet, no drums or dancers, Just a circle of chairs under the mango tree. Namdi stood, his voice calm but firm. I've thought deeply about this, he said. Chinelo is my pride, but her happiness is my legacy. The bride price is important, but love is greater. I've reduced the list. 10 tubers of yam, 1 goat, 2 kegs of palm wine, and 5,000 naira. This is enough to honor our tradition and my daughter. Chukwudi's uncle, a stout man with a kind face, stood and bowed. Thank you, Namdi. We respect you and your family. We'll meet these terms. Chukwudi, standing beside his uncle, couldn't hide his relief. He looked at Chinelo, who was seated with her mother, and mouthed, I love you. She smiled, her heart soaring. The wedding day arrived a month later, and Onitsha came alive with joy. The Okeke compound was a riot of colors, red and gold gellies, flowing igbadas, and children in matching outfits. The women's dance group swayed to the rhythm of the talking drums, their wrappers flashing in the sunlight. Chinelo emerged from the house, her osso oak shimmering, her coral beads catching the light. Chukwudi, in a cream agbada with intricate embroidery, couldn't take his eyes off her. The elders blessed the couple, pouring libations to the ancestors, and the guests cheered as Chinelo and Chukwudi danced together. Their hands entwined. Namdi watched from the side, his arm around Adiz. His heart was full, but a small ache lingered. If only I knew the cost of letting her go, he whispered to his wife. I would have held her closer. Adiz squeezed his hand. You've given her wings, Namdi. That's the greatest gift. As the couple took their vows, the crowd erupted in song, and Chinelo's sisters threw confetti made from dried hibiscus flowers. The true cost of marrying an Igbo lady, Namdi realized, wasn't in the bride price. It was in the love, sacrifice, and courage it took to let her shine. And as he watched Chinelo laugh, her face glowing with happiness, he knew he had made the right choice.